point was the fair representation and the fair share of power. Now, people in East Pakistan did not get much of a say in the leadership, right? So they were obviously dominated by people who were ruling and people who belonged from West Pakistan. So now these people from East Pakistan, they wanted to have a fair representation in their own land, in their own country. The country was, as a whole, it was Pakistan, but then these people, it was their land, so they wanted that in our land and in our country we should have a say about our people. So we should have, you know, people representing us and our interests, not the interests of people of West Pakistan or the leaders of West Pakistan. So these people also demanded a fair representation and a fair share of power amongst the leadership. So these are the problems that basically sparked the movements and the protests that happened in East Pakistan, which later, much later, helped it become a completely independent country with the name Bangladesh. So now we've discussed the initial problems. Now let's look at how the transition actually happened. What are the processes that took place and how Bangladesh emerged as an independent country of its own, and how the political system was governed thereafter. The first thing was, because of these problems, because of all these demands of people and all the unfair treatment that they received under West Pakistani leadership, and all the problems that happened, that made people so much dissatisfied being in East Pakistan. Because of these, there was this very, very popular movement. There was this series of protests and movements, and it was led by this one person called Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, right? And this man would later, become very, very important in, in the political system of Bangladesh. So Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was the one who led the popular struggles and movements against West Pakistani leadership, and he was the leader of the party called Awami League, right? Awami League was formed in East Pakistan, and it was very popular in East Pakistan. In the 1970s election, Awami League, led by Sheikh Mujib, won all the seats in East Pakistan and received a majority in the proposed Constituent Assembly. In the proposed Constituent Assembly, Sheikh Mujib's party, Awami League, it won a clear majority, and it also won all the seats in East Pakistan. And this proposed Constituent Assembly, this was not just for, for just East Pakistan. This was for all of Pakistan. So this was for all of Pakistan, right? So that basically goes on to say how popular Sheikh Mujib and his party Awami League was, because there was finally someone who was upholding the interests of people in East Pakistan. There was finally someone who was demanding things for them, who was upholding their rights and their demands, and who were calling movements and struggles because of the atrocities that people in East Pakistan faced. So Sheikh Mujib and his party were both very, very popular in East Pakistan. Now what happened was, he won all the seats in the in East Pakistan, and he also won a majority in the Constituent Assembly. But the West Pakistani leadership refused to convene. So the government was full of West Pakistani leadership. It was full of leaders from West Pakistan. Now what happened was, शेख मुजीब जो थे, उनकी जो पार्टी थी अवामी लीग, उसने कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली में मेजॉरिटी तो हासिल कर ली, मैक्सिमम because all votes were in favor of him, maximum favor was for him. So because he was very popular amongst people in East Pakistan. But what happened was, government में leaders जो थे वह वेस्ट पाकिस्तान के थे, तो इन लीडर्स ने, बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली अगर अवामी लीग अगर ज्यादा ज्यादा सीट्स जीत जाएंगी, तो this is not something that people in west that leaders of west Pakistan would want, because then east Pakistan would have a lot of autonomy and a lot of freedom and a lot of political power, and west Pakistan obviously wanted east Pakistan to be a subordinate to them, they always wanted to control east Pakistan. तो अब जो लीडर्स थे, वेस्ट पाकिस्तानी लीडर्स थे, उन्होंने इस असेंबली को कन्वीन होने से रोक दिया. दे रिफ्यूज टू कन्वीन द असेंबली. Also, they arrested Sheikh Mujib because he was such a popular leader and he was the one who sparked so many protests and so many movements. So Sheikh Mujib was arrested. At that point of time, if you remember when we were studying about Pakistan and its political systems, so there was this leader called General Yahya Khan who had come with a military takeover. So there was a military rule in West Pakistan at that point of time. So and the leader was under the leadership of General Yahya Khan. So this leader, General Yahya Khan, tried very hard to suppress the mass movement. Now this mass movement was basically it basically included people from the Bengali culture. It basically included thousands and thousands of Bengali people, because they were the one who were worst affected by this West Pakistani dominance or West Pakistani leadership. So this movement taken by so many people, taken by thousands of people, in which Bengalis were mostly in majority numbers, this movement was suppressed by General Yahya Khan, and this led to heavy migration from the East Pakistan side of the border to Assam and to Bengal, to the Indian side of border. So people migrated from East Pakistan to India because they were now, General Yahya Khan and the government under his rule was trying very hard to suppress the movement. So it would do anything in its power to stop these people from rebelling. So now people were scared. Now people did not want to live in the conditions that were presented to them, and people did not have a right to claim any other conditions. They did not have a right to fight for what they believed in, or to demand freedom. So people were scared, so they migrated to the Indian side of the border, and India in this situation helped the Bengalis or the immigrants who came from East Pakistan, both financially and militarily. We'll see how it helped it militarily. And this migration, this led to a kind of like a refugee problem on India's part, because India was now getting so many immigrants, so many refugees, that it was having trouble housing all of these, providing abode to all of these refugees. So this heavy migration led to a refugee problem. For India, right? But either ways, India wanted to help these people's cause. It wanted to help the cause of of whatever cause these people were upholding, of the demands of the Bengali people and all the protesters. So what happened after this is what we would later come to study in history as the Bangladesh crisis. Now, what basically was the Bangladesh crisis is that, so people were now leaving the country, right? People were now leaving the country. They were migrating to India, and India mein, because of this migration, India में बहुत ज़्यादा refugees का नंबर बढ़ गया था, बहुत ज़्यादा refugees आने लगे थे, और इंडिया को अब दिक्कत हो रही थी कि इन सारे refugees को हम क्या करेंगे, अब हम इन्हें ठहराएंगे कहाँ पे, अब हम मतलब so if a country has too much of immigration, right, it has too much of incoming migration or migrators, So then that that disturbs a lot of things. That disturbs the demographics of the country, of the receiving country. That disturbs the GDP of the country. That disturbs the employment situation, because then all these people would have to be housed somewhere. All these people would need jobs. Otherwise, if they don't find jobs, people would people would look at alternate sources of income, which is not a very happy thing in most general cases. And then so there are a lot of problems associated with immigration, if you think about it. And but then India was also determined to help these people, to help their cause. So so India was trying to help, but now it was, because of this heavy immigration, it was having problems of its own. So what happened was, so India was trying to help these people. तो अब वेस्ट पाकिस्तान ने, या लेट्स जस्ट से पाकिस्तान ने फिर ये कहा कि इंडिया जो है, इंडिया इज काइंड ऑफ इन्फ्लुएंसिंग East Pakistani people to rebel against West Pakistan, and India is the one causing all this disturbance, all this disruption. इन्होंने कहा कि इंडिया की गलती है, उनके प्रभाव में आके ये सारे लोग रिबेल कर रहे हैं, उनकी वजह से, उनकी इंडिया की बातें सुन के ये सारे लोग ऐसे मूवमेंट्स कर रहे हैं. So West Pakistan kind of tried to shift the entire blame of the protests and the movements that were happening on India. So now, and India was now trying to help, or India was also trying to help these people migrating from East Pakistan to Indian borders. So this led to a war in 1971 between India and Pakistan. Why it led to a war? Because India was trying to help these people both financially and militarily, right? So, and people in, and the West Pakistan did not, it had trouble accepting it. It did not want India to intervene in its own political or administrative arenas. But then because of their political and administrative problems, India was having refugee troubles. It was having problems housing all of these refugees. So this led to a war between India and Pakistan, and the war took place in basically over Bangladesh, what we call Bangladesh now. So, and in this war, India defeated Pakistan and India won, and so Pakistani forces were they were forced to retreat from the border, and so this led to the formation of Bangladesh. And this immediate situation before this is known as the Bangladesh Crisis, which basically starts with people's protests against the West Pakistani domination, and whatever followed after that till after the new independent country of Bangladesh was formed. So now Bangladesh became an independent country, and it assumed the name Bangladesh after this. Earlier it used to be what we called East Bengal. And Bangladesh had its new constitution, which declared faith in the values of democracy, secularism, and socialism. So, like all of these South Asian countries which were newly receiving independence, even Bangladesh said that, yeah, we will follow democracy and we will uphold secularism and socialism. And Bangladesh also wanted to have, a power sharing structure and a people's form of governance and everything. But then what happened was, in 1975, Sheikh Mujib amended the constitution. Sheikh Mujib, when he came to power and he became, the first president, and so then he was. So he now newly gained power and gained all this popularity, and he knew that the power was now in his hands. So then he started doing things that he probably shouldn't have done. So he amended the constitution from a parliamentary to a presidential form of government. Now, in a parliamentary form of government, there is no one single leader, right? So there's like there's this prime minister and then there's this president, and they both have their own set of powers, and then there's this council of ministers, and one person would be accountable to so many people. So that's where a parliamentary form of governance is very effective, because not one single person can dominate the entire administration. But then Sheikh Mujib wanted power in his own hands, so he changed it to a presidential form of government, where he, as the president, would exercise maximum rights, maximum powers. Also, he abolished all political parties except his own party, that was the Awami League. So now, in this country, which now newly received independence, and which now claimed to be democratic in nature, and be socialistic, and secular and everything. So now in this country, the president, what he did was he changed the he amended the constitution altogether to limit the powers of other people, and he also abolished all other political parties. Meaning what? Meaning there was now no more competition. So his party was the only legitimate party that would remain in Bangladesh hereafter. So this was again to make sure the power remains in his hands, the ball remains in his court, and he continues to rule for as long as he wants, and there would be no threat or no competition to his power. So in 1975, which is a very important year, Sheikh Mujib amended the constitution from a parliamentary to a presidential form of government, and he abolished all political parties except his own, which was the Awami League. In August 1975, now because people were being they were being alienated from the popularity of Sheikh Mujib. Now they were losing faith in him and his form of governance. So now he became very unpopular among the people. Now this led to the assassination of Sheikh Mujib in 1975, and now after this, so it started out as a democratic form of government, right? So just after independence, Bangladesh started as a democratic form of government. It had its own constitution, but then even within the democratic structure, the supreme leader, the ruler, changed the it amended the constitution to change the system of governance from a parliamentary form to a presidential form, and from a multi-party system to a single party system, to one party system. And after this, when the president was now assassinated, there was a military takeover. Now there was a military takeover, and because of this military takeover, so now there was a military dictatorship form of government, and the new military ruler was Zia-ur-Rahman. So under the leadership of Zia-ur-Rahman, this new military form of government came in Bangladesh, right? So पहले शेख मुजीब ने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को अमेंड किया, पार्लियामेंट्री से प्रेसिडेंशियल फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट बना दिया, फिर उन्होंने सारे पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को अबॉलिश कर दिए, और फिर उनका असैसिनेशन हो गया 1975 में, राइट? इसके बाद एक मिलिट्री टेक ओवर हुआ बांग्लादेश में फ्रॉम अ डेमोक्रेटिक गवर्नमेंट. द पावर वाज टेकन टू अ मिलिट्री फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, जहां पे ये जिया और रहमान के लीडरशिप में अब ये एक मिलिट्री गवर्नमेंट आया, राइट? एंड जिया और रहमान नाउ फॉर्म्ड हिज ओन पार्टी कॉल्ड द बांग्लादेश नेशनल पार्टी. सो even this military ruler now formed his own political party, and he won elections in 1979. So it wasn't like he kind of seized the power from from the hands of the democratic setup, and then he just started ruling without anybody's permission or without anybody's approval. He seized power. There was the military takeover, but then he formed his own party called the Bangladesh National Party, and he won elections in 1979. But then what happened was, he was not obviously he was a military ruler, so he was by nature, his rule wouldn't be very democratic, right? So people started protesting. People grew, people didn't like the way he ruled. They grew restless. There was unrest in the country, so they started protesting. So now there were huge public protests, and in these protests there were large numbers of students involved, which is a very it's a very distinctive feature of the protest that happened. The students were in the forefront of these protests and these movements. So even though Zia-ur-Rahman had contested elections and he had come to power, but his rule made people very restless, and people had started protesting now. And because of these protests, he allowed some political activity, right?